Let's have a look at some algebraic long division. So we're looking at using long division to divide polynomials. So you see this polynomial here, and we want to divide it by the factor x plus 3. So we have a technique for polynomial long division or algebraic long division, and it's like a cycle. So what we're going to do is introduce what the cycle is first of all. So the first thing you generally do is you divide. Then after you've divided, you put the answer to that division on top. Then you're going to multiply by the factor. The answer to that will go below. Then you're going to do some subtraction and go again. Now, this list here will make sense with an example. It won't make a whole lot of sense right now, but it'll make sense with an example. So let's do this question 1 here. So I have the question 1 already written out. X plus 3. This is my factor, x plus 3, divided into the polynomial x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6. So remember, the idea is the first thing we do is divide. So what are we actually dividing? We're always looking at the leading term in the factor. So what I mean by the leading term is the value of x with the highest power. So this is just x to the power of 1. You're dividing the leading term of the factor into the leading term of the polynomial. So when I divide x into x cubed, the answer to that is x squared. And the answer goes on top. All right, so x into x cubed goes x squared. And we put that answer on top. There's my x squared on top now. Then the next step is to multiply and put the answer below. Now, what are we multiplying? We're multiplying what we have on top, the x squared, by the factor, by the x plus 3. So x squared times x, that's x cubed. And then x squared times plus 3 is plus 3x squared. So that's the second stage done, multiplication and putting the answer below. Then the third step is to subtract. So we're saying we're subtracting this minus this. All right. So when you subtract, we'll change our sign. So this will be a minus and this will be a minus. So x cubed minus x cubed is nothing. And then 6x squared minus 3x squared, that's 3x squared, and then the 11x was minus nothing, so that's still 11x, and the plus 6 was take nothing, so that's still a plus 6. So that's the first cycle done. Remember, I said this was a cyclical process, so we start the cycle again. So the next thing to do is divide. What do we divide? We divide the leading term here into the leading term here. So x divides into 3x squared plus 3x times. Then the next step, remember, is to multiply. So we multiply the 3x by the factor and write the answer below. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times plus 3, that's plus 9x. The next step is to subtract. So I'll draw my line, and subtracting, these will turn into minuses. So 3x squared minus 3x squared is nothing. 11x minus 9x, that's 2x, and then the 6 take nothing is still simply a plus 6. So that's the second cycle done. So we've got one more cycle to do to finish it. So back to the division. We're dividing the leading term here into the leading term there. So x into 2x, x divides into 2x 2 times, plus 2 times. Then the next step is to multiply. So 2 times x plus 3, so 2 by x, that's 2x. And then 2 times 3, that's 6. And then the final step is to subtract again. So this will become a minus and this will become a minus. 2x take 2x is 0. 6 take 6 is 0. So we have no remainder. This would be the remainder down here. We have a remainder of 0. So that means x plus 3 divides evenly into x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6. The next thing to take into account is what is the answer for the division? The answer is what you have on top here. So the answer, in this case, to the division would be x squared plus 3x plus 2. Another way of looking at this, if you multiplied x plus 3 by x squared plus 3x plus 2, the result you would get would be x cubed plus 6x squared plus 11x plus 6. Okay, let's have a look at another example here. So the one we look at this time is this question 8. 6x cubed minus 13x squared plus 4 divided by 2x plus 1. Now, before we move on, I just want to draw your attention to something. Just let's look at the layout here of my previous attempt at the long division. we have this column here. Everything in this column is x cubes. Everything in the next column was x squareds. Everything in the next column was just x's. And everything in the final column was 6's. So we have a certain organization here that we have to keep track of. We have our 4 columns, in this case, the x cubed, x squareds, x's, and numbers. So it's very important that we keep those 4 columns. So if we've got something like this, 6x cubed minus 13x squared plus 4 divided by 2x plus 1, it's important that I understand when I do the division and write it out, I write it like this, 6x cubed minus 13x squared plus 0x plus 4. If you notice, if we look back at the question, there was no x. There's the x cubed, there's the x squared. We had no x term. It went straight to the plus 4. But in order to keep the layout, we must put in this 0x in order to keep our 4 columns aligned correctly. Then once we've realized that, the division works the same as it did previously. So the first step is to divide. The leading term here divides into the leading term here. So 6x cubed divided by 2x would be 3x squared. Then remember, the next step was to multiply by the factor. So 3x squared gets multiplied by 2x plus 1. So 3x squared times 2x is 6x cubed. And 3x squared times the plus 1 is plus 3x squared. The next step, if you remember, was to subtract. So this will become a minus and this will become a minus. 6x cubed minus 6x cubed is nothing. Minus 13x squared minus 3x squared, that's minus 16x squared. 0x take nothing is still 0x. And 4 take nothing is still 4. So then we continue with our division. So now the leading term here into the leading term here. So 2x divides into minus 16x squared minus 8x times. So then the next step is multiplication. Minus 8x times 2x is minus 16x squared. Minus 8x times plus 1 is minus 8x. The next step is subtraction. Now when you subtract the minus by the minus will make that a plus. Subtracting the minus there, the minus and the minus will make it a plus. So it's minus 16x squared plus 16x squared is nothing. 0x plus 8x, that's 8x. And then we have the 4 take 0 is still 4. So back to the start again, back to division. So 2x divides into 8x 4 times. 4 then gets multiplied by 2x plus 1. So 4 times 2x is 8x. And 4 times 1, that's plus 4. And the final stage, once again, to subtract. And I'll get 0 at the end. Once again, there's no remainder. There's no remainder here because we got 0 at the end. So 2x plus 1 divides evenly into 6x cubed minus 13x squared plus 4. And then remember, your answer is what you had on top. So the answer to this particular question is 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. Okay, so that is our introduction to algebraic long division. The best thing for you guys to do now is to practice some of these questions, check your solutions online, and for access to questions, solutions, graded quizzes, and more, visit www.limymaths.com.